Hey guys, Orange Juice here. Today I have a pretty fun video. It's bounce physics in Minecraft. And as you can see, as I hold right click on this carrot on a stick, I spew out a lot of items from my face and they bounce off the geometry of the environment. And if I shoot it at this tree, you can see that they can get stuck in the leaves, um, or they can bounce off. I can shoot it in this little glass container here and it'll act like you'd expect. These are just normal entities, so they'll interact with stuff like water. Um, and if I shoot them here, you can see the magma block actually pulls them below the water. So you can apply this to pretty much any entity or any entity similar to an item. So let's try something else. Let's go ahead and try like an armor stand or something. And I believe armor stands have higher drag, so they won't bounce as much. But you can always change their coefficient of restitution, which I'll talk about. So before I get into the commands of the video, I want to explain what I'm doing first, and for that I'm going to go into MS Paint. So we're going to be applying some physics, but it's actually quite simple. You need two variables, x0 and x1, which refer to the velocity of this particle. And x0 is the most current velocity, and x1 is the velocity taken one tick before x0. So to see when a particle needs to bounce, we need to see if it hits a wall. And if it hits a wall in Minecraft, then the magnitude of x0 should be about 0. It won't always be exactly 0 because in Minecraft motion is weird, and sometimes objects that look still actually have a small amount of motion to them. And because of this weirdness, we also need to check if the magnitude of x1 is greater than some threshold a. And we have this because sometimes objects will continuously bounce. Usually there's drag, and in real life you probably wouldn't need this. But because Minecraft is so weird, applying motion will sometimes negate this drag. So if this is all true, then we need to apply something to the particle. We need to apply this equation, negative x1 times c, and c is the coefficient of restitution, which refers to how bouncy an object is. So in this instance, a particle travels at a wall at 20 meters per second and bounces off at 10 meters per second. So we can say the coefficient of restitution here is 0.5 because 10 is half of 20. And usually this coefficient is between 0 and 1, 0 meaning no bounce and 1 being perfectly elastic. So in that case, it would bounce back at 20 meters per second. But you can change this value around in Minecraft, and it only requires 3 command blocks, so it's actually pretty simple. 3 command blocks per axis, that is. So let's get back into Minecraft and I'll show you how to make it. To get started, we need to create our 2 variables, 2 per axis. So we type in /scoreboard, objectives add x0 dummy, and you make x1 dummy, and then do that for y and z. So y0, y1, z0, z1. And I already created all of those, but to test, we're going to be just focusing on the y-axis because we have gravity to help us test with an object. And to do that, I'm just going to summon an armor stand 10 blocks high with a tag of particle. And when I do this now, it won't do anything. It'll just fall and it will just stay there. So let's go ahead and create our bounce physics. Remember, it's only 3 command blocks per axis, and we're only focusing on the y-axis, so it's going to be pretty simple. Set the bottom to repeat and need redstone, and set the top to chain and always active. So remember, we're trying to store the motion into y0 and y1. So to do that, we execute as all entities tag equals particle, and we will store the motion into a score. So store result score at s y0 run data get entity at s motion in square brackets 1 because that is the y-axis. Motion 0 is x, motion 2 is z. And we need to multiply this by a scale of 1000. And we do this because motion is a double, and a double is a really long float. And a float is a number with decimals, or a decimal. And scoreboards can't handle decimals. So if we multiply it by 1000 and then later divide it by 1000 when we're applying the motion, we can bypass this limitation to include decimals. That's really nice. And then literally just copy this, go to the top command block, just paste it. And instead of y0, this is y1, remember, because it's our old velocity. So this is the new one, this is the old one. And then in between is when we do our if-then statement. So execute again as all entities tag equals particle. We're going to see if our score of y0 matches or is close to 0. Now you'd be tempted to do this, but let's just take a look at this armor stand real quick. Data, motion 1, and you can see that it's actually not 0. So this is what a double is, by the way. You can see how many decimals there are. Decimals there are. And remember, we're multiplying it by a scale of 1000. So this is actually a motion of -79. So we need to see if it's around 0. So to do that, we'll just do between -80 and 80. And these two dots mean in between and including -80 and 80. And remember, we also need to include our threshold. So instead of if, we'll type in unless. Unless score at s y1 matches. Now this is our threshold a. You can experiment to see what you like, and I'll show you what happens if you change this. But I found that a value of 200 is pretty nice. And we don't use if here, we're using unless to kind of say, this is equivalent to saying if it is below -200 or if it is above 200. This is how I implemented that if statement. And then we will store the score y1 into our motion. So store result entity at s motion 1. Remember, it's a double. And then we need our scale here. Remember, we're dividing it again by 1000. So 0.001. But remember, we're also we need to apply the negative of y1. So type in negative here, and this would be a perfect coefficient of restitution of 1. So let's go ahead and change this to 70% instead. So it would look something like this. And then run scoreboard players get at s y1. And of course, all these commands will be in the description. I'm going kind of fast just for time, but hopefully you can kind of understand it. So when I activate this, I have y0 on display, by the way. You'll see that it actually bounces, and you can see it bounces a lot at the end. If you don't want it to bounce that much, change two things, either the coefficient of restitution or the threshold A. Let's go ahead and try -400 to 400, and that should stop sooner. Let's do an extreme value. Let's do like 1000 and -1000. It should only be a couple bounces. Yep, just like that. So I found a value of 200. Pretty nice. Let's go ahead and change our coefficient of restitution as well. So instead of 70%, let's just do like 20%. And you can see it didn't bounce that high. And that might not look like 20%. That's because, again, Minecraft motion is weird. You have all sorts of random factors, so it won't always bounce back up 20%. Let's change this to a perfect coefficient of restitution of 1. And it will actually slow down. Again, just drag, and motion is weird. So it bounces for a long, long, long time. Till at some point, it stops, or sometimes it doesn't. And that's, in this instance, that's when you need to change your threshold. But, yeah, I'm not going to do that quite yet. You can even have a coefficient higher than 1. So uh, let's do 200%. So this will actually bounce back even higher. And you can see, oh dang, there it goes. And it will continue doing this forever because it is continuously gaining some energy. I'm going to change this back to 70%. And now what about all the other axes? Well, to do that, you literally just copy these three and then change all the y's to, like x's or z's. It's really that simple. And once you're done with that, you're all done. That's all it is. See here, I've already gone ahead and did this. This is just to demonstrate like shooting items out of carrot on a stick. You don't need that. I just did that just for fun. So I'm going to go ahead and do that right now. The only thing you need to change is these repeating command blocks. Set them to chain and always active. So this one will be, let's do X right now. So X, that's good. Okay, now this should be done. I'm going to turn this on, and then I'm going to summon an armor stand and then give it a predefined motion just to test it out. I have a wall on the right side, and we'll give it motion of -100. So when I do that, you can see that it indeed bounced off. Let's give this some Y motion, and wow, it works really, really well. And that's really all there is to it. You can set particle again to be whatever your heart desires. I'm gonna go ahead and turn both of these on just to shoot out even more. And to kill all of them, you just do kill all entities attack equals particle. That easy. I'm gonna clear the scoreboard as well, and then let's just. I think my favorite thing to shoot out is definitely like an item. That's pretty cool. They're small and they also don't lag as much. Yeah, so that's about it. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you liked it, well, I don't know. You can subscribe or not. I don't care. Yeah, thanks. All right, see you later.